I'm from Chicago, I'll call myself Avery. My now ex-husband, Marco, and I met in Boston when he came for a finance conference, and we ran into each other at a coffee shop. It felt right. Fast forward 6 months, I accepted his proposal, and we planned our honeymoon in Miami. I believed it was going to be the second happiest time of my life. Everything looked perfect on the surface. Marco charmed everyone, our wedding was beautiful, his family seemed welcoming, and I thought I was marrying the love of my life. We flew out to Miami, rented a beachfront suite, and toasted to our future. The sunlight touched the waves, the floral arrangements smelled fresh, I felt bliss. Then on day 3 of the honeymoon, I went back to the suite early. Marco went out with his old friend, who lived in Miami and would meet us for dinner. I was tired and decided to lie down. He came back late. I wasn't angry yet, just a little uneasy. I opened his luggage for something, tech charger, and saw the hotel receipt. It read, Hotel Riviera Maya, Mexico, same dates we were supposed to be in Miami. Same check-in and check-out. Receipt shows it was his card, his name. I froze. My stomach flipped. We were literally in Miami and he booked a room for the exact same nights in Mexico with someone else. I confronted him. What is this, Marco? He shrugged and said, It's nothing. You're just a checkpoint in this process. My blood ran cold. I asked what he meant. He sighed and told me, Look, Avery, there's someone else. Her name is Alina. She's the one I'm going to marry. You're just legal paperwork for now. The wedding with her is real. This just keeps everything smooth for visa stuff. He admitted it in shockingly blunt words. He said I was a placeholder. My heart shattered in front of him. Call to action. If you've ever been in a relationship that felt too perfect to be real, comment the city you're from and hit like and subscribe because things get weird from here. I staggered from the room, mind racing. I tried to gather thoughts. I felt used. I asked, so this whole time was fake? He didn't deny it. He said his parents agreed to not update me. His parents had met him and Alina already, and told me directly. When I called them demanding answers, his father said, Don't embarrass the family, Avery. Everything will be sorted quietly. My senses screamed run, but part of me froze. I was still wearing my white dress from the wedding, standing in this luxury suite in Miami, honeymoon half planned, and I realized I was stuck in a lie I didn't even see coming. That night I barely slept. I kept thinking. How many other receipts, phone calls, hidden flights? I decided I wouldn't play along. I pulled out my phone and researched immigration fraud while Marco was asleep. I saved the receipt photo, email confirmations, clipped messages where he referenced paperwork. When morning came, Marco asked if we could just go enjoy the beach. I said nothing. I felt numb. I already had a plan. I would contact authorities. I would not quietly let my life be used. I packed my bag, booked a ticket back to Chicago for the next day, and sent his parents a message outlining what I found and saying I was reaching out to immigration services. By the time his parents called me, begging to avoid scandal, I had already walked into the border immigration office. I handed over the documents. The hotel receipt, the visa paper Marco asked me to sign without real explanation, emails showing 2 weddings, one to me, one to Alina in Southern California on the same timeline as our marriage license. The officers asked questions and paused. Next morning, I got a call saying the case was being opened for review, and Marco's visa sponsorship was under investigation. Meanwhile, I flew back to Chicago, head spinning. That's where I am now, waiting, furious, betrayed, uncertain about what happens next. After I flew back to Chicago, everything felt unreal. The apartment we shared looked the same, but it felt like I was living in someone else's life. Our wedding photos were still on the fridge. My suitcase hadn't even been unpacked, but I wasn't crying. I was planning. I knew I had to find out what else Marco had been hiding, and more importantly, how deep this scam ran. So I started with what I knew. Alina, the woman he called his real fiancée. Her name had slipped out too easily. Marco wasn't being careful anymore. He probably figured I was too humiliated or stunned to act. He had no idea I was already building a case against him. I started digging into the wedding website we used to plan ours. I found Marco's old login. He used the same 2 passwords for everything, and I remembered it from our Netflix account. Inside his dashboard, I saw something weird. A second registry link under a different name. I clicked it. The page loaded and I saw her face. Alina Cruz. She looked like someone off Instagram, airbrushed, glossy, too perfect. The event said, "Private celebration, San Diego, CA." The date was 2 weeks after our wedding. He literally booked a second wedding like it was a weekend vacation. And guess what else? It was being held at a private estate in La Jolla. That was real money. My heart dropped again when I saw the registry listed my name as Marco's business partner and efficient coordinator. This man had actually told people I was part of the team helping make their wedding happen. It was the same exact lie in reverse. To me, she was the fake. To her, I was the fake. I had to see this up close. I messaged Alina from a fake email I created. I posed as someone scouting for wedding photographers in California and said I saw her engagement page and wanted to know if she'd be open to a feature in a wedding blog. I included a link to make it look real. She replied within an hour. Excited, chatty. "We're just so in love. Marco's been waiting so long for this, he deserves it all," she wrote. My jaw clenched. I asked casually, "When did you two meet?" Her answer almost made me throw my phone. 2017. We met when I studied abroad, but the paperwork's finally coming through so we can be together here full time. That was 3 years before I met Marco. He'd been juggling this for years. The next few days, I started building a folder, every scrap I could find. I downloaded the wedding pages, the registry, her replies, his travel receipts. I went through our apartment and found a second phone under his dresser drawer. It had a passcode, but I guessed it on the second try. It was her birthday. Inside the phone were photos of them in Venice, Paris, and Cancun, all with timestamps that overlapped with business trips or family visits he told me about. I even found a voice memo where he was practicing his vows to her. It was sickening. But the most important thing on the phone was a PDF. It was a mock marriage certificate, a fake one, not legally filed, but good enough for appearances. And it had my name photoshopped out and Alina's pasted in. He was planning to show this to her family like it was legit. I immediately forwarded everything to the immigration officer I'd spoken with. A few days later, I got a call back. They were now investigating Marco for marriage fraud, identity fraud, and visa manipulation. But I wasn't done. I remembered something his father had said. "Don't embarrass the family." That told me they knew. Maybe not all the details, but enough to beg silence. I needed proof, so I called his sister, Rhea. We were never close, but we'd talked a bit before the wedding. She sounded tense when she picked up. "Rhea, it's Avery. I just need one answer. Did you know about Alina before the wedding?" There was a long pause. Then she said, "I told him this would blow up in his face." That was all I needed. I pressed. "So you knew, your parents knew, everyone knew except me." "Look," she said, "this wasn't my choice. I told my parents not to let it go this far. They wanted to help Marco get his green card, and Alina's parents wouldn't sign off unless he was more settled. They thought marrying you first would make it all easier." I hung up. My hands were shaking, but I felt oddly clear. These people weren't just enabling a scam, they were actively organizing it, using me like a chess piece. I updated the immigration officers. They told me the investigation was expanding to include family conspiracy. I had just turned over evidence that this wasn't a one-man lie. It was a network of cover-ups. Now the countdown had begun. Alina had no idea what was coming. After the confirmation that Marco's entire family knew about the scam, I stopped feeling scared. I stopped second-guessing. I was done playing the victim. I didn't just want Marco exposed. I wanted to watch him lose everything he built on my back. I created a new fake Instagram profile. I modeled it off wedding planners in San Diego, clean, minimal bio, lots of event photos. Then I started liking some of Alina's posts. It didn't take long for her to follow back. I waited 3 days. Then I messaged her directly. Me. "Hey, I saw your engagement page on the Coastal Bride and your story is so beautiful, smiling face with heart eyes. I'm working on a piece about unique love stories. Would love to include you too. Quick cue, are you married already or planning soon?" She replied instantly. "Alina, that's so sweet. Not married yet, ceremonies in 10 days in La Jolla. Everything's been crazy. Marco and I have waited years for this." That was my opening. Me. "Wow, that's amazing. Just curious, did you two meet abroad or in the US? Alina. "In Spain. I was on a semester abroad in 2017. We clicked immediately. Boom. Exact same timeline Marco told me he was rebuilding his career after a breakup. He was in Spain with her, pretending to be single when he met me years later in Boston. I decided to twist the knife. I dropped the act. Me. Elena, you don't know me, but I know Marco. We got married 3 weeks ago. We just got back from our honeymoon. I have the legal certificate, joint lease, and I was the one who sponsored his visa. You're the other woman. There was no response for 3 hours. Then finally, Elena, what kind of sick joke is this? I replied with pictures. Our wedding certificate. Photos of us on the beach in Miami. Screenshots of the visa paperwork he had me sign. The fake certificate he made with her name on it. Then I hit send. The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, then stayed gone for hours. I honestly thought she blocked me, until she called. Not messaged, called. Her voice was shaking when she said, "Is this real? Are you really married to him?" "Yes," I said. "Legally, and you should check the name on his lease back in Chicago. It's mine." "Not yours," she asked. "Why would he do this? Why would he marry you and plan a wedding with me?" I told her everything. The lies, the receipts, the second phone, the immigration report, everything. She cried quietly while I talked. I could hear it in her breathing. Then she said, "He told me you were his cousin helping with the documents. He said your name was just on the lease for convenience." That's when I knew Marco never stopped lying. Even after trapping me, he still fed Alina lies that made me out to be nothing. But now she knew the truth. And she wasn't just hurt, she was angry. Over the next few days, Alina and I formed a strange kind of alliance. We weren't friends, we didn't like each other. But we had a common goal: burn Marco to the ground. She invited me to fly out to California for the wedding, not to attend to ruin it. She said, "He thinks I don't know anything. He thinks I'm still showing up in a white dress, so let's give him a show." I was hesitant at first, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized this was my chance. To confront him in front of everyone, no more hiding. No more quiet legal channels. This needed to happen loud. So I booked a flight to San Diego. Alina bought me a dress and even covered the hotel room. I flew in the day before the ceremony. She snuck me onto the guest list under a fake name. I walked into the venue the next day like nothing was wrong. It was a stunning oceanfront estate. White roses, gold chairs, soft violin music. Marco's family was already there. His mother looked me in the eye and said nothing. Elena wore a simple cream gown, hair curled, makeup flawless. She walked past me and whispered, "Wait until the vows." Guests sat down. The ceremony started. Marco stood under the arch looking smug as hell. The officiant asked them to recite personal vows. Elena smiled at him and said, "Before I tell you my vows, I'd like to invite someone up here. Someone Marco knows very well." I stood up, gasps. A few people clapped, they thought it was part of the ceremony. Marco's face went white. I walked up, took the mic and said, "Hi everyone, I'm Avery, I'm Marco's wife. We got married 3 weeks ago in Chicago. Our honeymoon was lovely, until I found out he was cheating on me with his fiancée. Elena didn't know, I didn't know, but now we both do." Silence, a few gasps. Marco tried to speak, but I cut him off. "I have our marriage certificate, I have photos, I've reported him to immigration. He won't be getting that visa, and this wedding, it's over." I handed the mic to Elena. She stared Marco down and said, "We're done, you used both of us. Now we're both done with you." Then she slapped him. Guests started whispering, leaving. His father tried to yell at me, but I raised the mic again. "Oh, and by the way, the immigration officers, they're outside. With a warrant." The video of me exposing Marco at the altar didn't stay private for long. Someone in the crowd, I still don't know who, recorded the entire thing and uploaded it to TikTok with the caption, "Bride's wedding crashes and it turns out the groom was already married. This is insane." By the time I landed back in Chicago 2 days later, the clip had gone viral. 5 million views, thousands of comments. News outlets started reaching out to both me and Alina. The hashtags wedding scammer and double marriage guy were trending for nearly a week. People were divided. Some were on my side, praising me for standing up. Others were amazed by Alina's calm rage. But everyone agreed, Marco was toast. And that was just the internet fallout. The real damage started back home. First, Marco's employer found out. He worked for a mid-sized investment firm in downtown Chicago, all sharp suits and performance bonuses. I didn't even need to contact them. Someone sent them the video, and a rep called me directly. "We've placed Marco on indefinite suspension," she said. "This doesn't reflect our company's values, and we've notified legal counsel." Next came the immigration case. The officers called me for a follow-up. "Thanks to your evidence and the public confirmation at the event, we're pursuing full visa fraud charges. There's also the matter of falsified documents and a forged certificate submitted under Alina's name." I asked what that meant for Marco. Best case, he's deported and banned from reentry. Worst case, federal prison time. They also told me that Marco had attempted to blame me in his interview, claimed I tricked him into the marriage and was obsessed with him. Luckily for me, and unluckily for him, I had screen recordings, saved emails, audio files, and written consent from him about the visa documents. Everything was airtight. His lies fell apart fast. And then came the family fallout. Rhea, his sister, reached out again. This time, her tone was different. She begged me not to push for charges against the parents. "They didn't know how deep it went," she claimed. "They thought it was a temporary thing to help him, just a mistake." I wasn't buying it. They knew. His mother looked me dead in the eye at the wedding and didn't say a word. No shock, no confusion, just cold calculation. So I gave her a choice. "I'll consider keeping your parents out of it if you send me everything you have, emails, messages, any proof they planned this." She sent over 27 screenshots. One of them was from their father's email, titled, "Green Card Solution for Marco, Do Not Forward." In it, he laid out the timeline. Marry U.S. citizen me. Wait 6 months, apply for spousal visa. Divorce quietly, marry Alina after citizenship. No paper trail linking both marriages. He literally used the phrase, "It's just chess, not personal." That was the final nail. I forwarded it to the investigators. They called me a week later to confirm. His entire family was now under review for conspiracy to commit immigration fraud. Rhea begged me to retract it. I told her I wasn't interested in quiet fixes. Meanwhile, Alina's life exploded in the opposite direction. She posted her side of the story in a long Instagram caption with a photo of her in the ruined wedding dress. She gained 80K followers in a week. Wedding blogs interviewed her. She started a podcast about betrayal, and I even guested on an episode. We talked about how women are told to stay silent, to not make a scene. How lies like Marco's only live when people cover for them. And how exposing them loudly is the only way to stop the cycle. The episode went viral. We started getting messages from other women who had been tricked into similar marriages. Some for papers, some for money. Some just to hide other lives. Marco was just one of many. 3 months later, I got the final update from ICE. Marco Vasquez will be deported back to Spain next week. He's been barred from reentry into the U.S. for life. Conspiracy charges are still pending for family members. I watched the footage online. Him in handcuffs, no suit, no fake smile. He looked small. I'm still in Chicago. I've moved apartments, got a promotion, and started dating again. Alina and I aren't close, but we text sometimes. There's a weird kind of peace between us. A shared war scar. Sometimes I think back to that beach in Miami. How it all started with a hotel receipt I wasn't supposed to find. And I'm glad I did. Because now, he's the one trying to disappear. If someone makes you feel like you're just a checkpoint, don't walk away, burn the whole damn bridge.